My second topic that I wanted to talk about is that you should learn some magic tricks. And in my career, I think I've learned 3 magic tricks. And what do I mean by magic tricks? Well, in stage performance, a magic trick is something that, the audience doesn't know how you do it, but it's actually not that hard and can be learned. So sawing a woman in half or identifying someone's card, they're not really sawing a woman in half. They're not really identifying the card using telepathy. There's a technique, and there's some tools that they learn. And what I've found is there are things in business that if you're not doing that, it's not part of your day job, it really is very mysterious. And it can seem overwhelming to get into, but that are core aspects to a successful business, to most successful businesses. And so I sort of think of them as magic tricks. And I found my way into some of these the hard way. Hopefully by identifying these, maybe some of you can be a little bit more intentional about it. So the first magic trick I learned is recruiting. I talk to businesses all the time about their need for talent, and most companies and most individuals have never really had to recruit anyone. They don't really know how to do it. And so they struggle with the same problems, and they don't have the vocabulary and the process down. But as I said earlier, I've spent a lot of my own career on recruiting, and there are very definitely specific techniques and specific a process that you can just apply to do that. And I think in today's day and age, more so than ever, the ability to attract and retain great talent to your company is one of the most critical drivers of success. Study after study on company success has shown that access to talent and ability to retain and attract talent is one of the keys. Everyone can recruit, and I think it's important, no matter what your profession, no matter what your background or what area of the company, that you try to find some point in your career to learn how to recruit and do it well. I think it'll really pay off. The second is sales. And again, a lot of us come from engineering or other, kind of disciplines where we think, hey, if I'm just a great engineer or I'm a great doctor, a great architect, that's my calling. But what we find is that sales is really critical to making any type of business success. If it's an e-commerce business, that means one thing. If it's a consulting business like I've done, it's another. If it's enterprise, it may be another type of sales. But again, sales is one of those things that may feel mysterious. If you haven't done it, it seems quite daunting. It may be scary. It certainly is the easiest way to get the most amount of no's and failures and rejections in your life. So you're signing up for that. But again, whatever type of sales that you're doing, it can be learned, it can be done, and once you do it, you're much more valuable to your own entrepreneurial career and to the organizations that you may join or be a part of later. So I encourage everyone to spend a lot of time thinking about how can I get good at some type or other of sales. And then last is public speaking. So the story that I like to tell about this is that I was always terrified of public speaking. By public speaking, by the way, I don't mean standing up in front of a hall of 500 people. Everyone doesn't always necessarily have to do that. But in many contexts in entrepreneurship, one finds oneself in front of a room of even as few as 3, 4, 5 people in a conference room, or maybe you're at a conference and you're talking to some people. There's lots of reasons why people get up in a room and need to give a talk. And being able to do that, and feel comfortable with it is really, really hard. I think the famous quote is that, it's, next to death, one of the things that people fear the most is public speaking. So for myself, I realized that I had this problem in spades. The first time I ever had to get up in front of an audience and speak, I was running for student council vice president in the 8th grade. So we're going way back here. And my knees were shaking and I was sweating, and my knees were just knocking together, and I was terrified, and it was one of the worst experiences of my life. And from that point on, I was always deadlocked. I never would get up in front of a room and speak. And at some point, I just realized I had to get over that. So I actually, there's lots of ways to do it. I decided to throw myself into the deep end. I signed up at New York University for a stand-up comedy class, which I thought, if you have to get up in front of a room and try to be funny, that's probably just about the hardest thing there is to do. If you can do that, you can do anything. Well, it's not I can't do that. But it did help me get over my fear of public speaking. At the end of the class, they actually take you to a real comedy club. You bring all your friends and family. They have an MC. He announces everyone. You get up on stage. You do your little few minutes of jokes, and you go on your way. Well, I got up there. I told my first joke, which was a one-liner. I forgot everything else. My mind went completely blank. And I just paused, composed myself. My friend was in the audience. I asked him what my second joke was because he'd helped me rehearse. He shouted it out to me. I went on, and then I realized, wait a sec, this actually wasn't that bad. And in that moment, I got over it, and from then on, I've been able to do it. I've given this advice to a lot of people, technology people in particular. I can say this because I'm an engineer. Aren't always great in front of people. Aren't always great with a crowd, with an audience. But it can be a really critical skill to have as you go forward. And certainly, if you're talking about entrepreneurship, you're going to be looking at potentially raising money in front of investors, which is very similar. You might be in a boardroom with 4 or 5 people firing questions at you. Being able to feel comfortable in that type of environment is really, really important. So that's kind of my third magic trick that I'd encourage everyone to pick up on.